blessing, honor to to learn from over a decade now. We've done some beautiful things together, both in the States, in Europe as well. How to describe spiritchild? It's hard. I could talk about it for days. But revolutionary, artist, freedom singer, youth worker, community builder, spiritualist, sensei, mentor, and so on and so on. From South Africa to New York to many places in between, he's created some beautiful projects together with other people, together with other communities for our youth, obviously. And that's why we thought it would be a real treat, a real pleasure for us to be able to talk to him. So we sent some guiding questions, and we'll start from there. And as mentioned, we'll also have an open Q&A, obviously. So I'm just testing, Spiritual, can you hear us? And is it possible to show us? Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear. I can hear you.
We can hear you too.
Ah,
Say
okay,
hi.
good. All right, all right. That's good.
Let's Spiritual, a big, good hip hop love community welcome so we can feel you through the screen.
All right. Yeah, that's fun. Fun crowd. How y'all doing?
How we doing? We can hear you too, so feel free. A little bit tired, day two
Okay.
of the internet exchange. So we feel it, but we're still here, we're still rocking, we're still hopping. So here we are.
Okay.
We started with some guiding questions, Spirit. And we're wondering, as we know you can talk inspiringly in many ways, feel free to start from whichever question spoke to you most, we would say. Is that all? You have another question for us first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going off the energy of y'all. So it seems like if I was there with you, I'd probably be doing some jumping jacks or stretching a little
Right.
bit, but we could get into it. I should I pull up the questions here on my end and sort of like.
Yes, I could also sort of share them with you as an interview if you would prefer so. I believe our first question to you is the title of the seminar is The Connective and Inclusive Power of Hip Hop. Can you share a little bit how you see that natural, connective, and inclusive power of hip hop culture through your work, which I'll add in youth work facilities, in community centers, and prison, and so on from your experience? Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, thanks. So this is a part of it, right? Like it's also kind of trippy. But it's cool. It's happening. We're doing it. Um, Utilizing these technologies and things that we have to our disposal, but not being oppressed by them. Hopefully, we can still transcend and transform. The 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 connectedness that we have is, I know a lot of y'all are workers. Y'all see that hip hop is no secret. It's global. It's universal. And wherever we go, we always ask our young people, and usually like you get like 90, if not 95% of people like, yeah, I engage with hip hop, I spit, I rap, I like to produce, or my cousin's a DJ or whatever the case is. Um, so we can feel that, that's an obvious thing. Inclusive is a tricky one, right? Because it's inclusive within our communities, right? But still not necessarily commercially accepted in certain other spaces. There's still a lot of stereotyping and a lot of discrimination, and even doing events here. If you have hip hop as a title, you may not be so included, right? Even our grant world, y'all a bit more free out there in Europe. Here, you write for certain grants in the arts. If it's too specific on hip hop, it doesn't really bring you much resources unless it's a particular project, which nowadays people like to monetize and kind of basically just pimp hip hop out when it's convenient, you know. But yeah, the natural connection is us, you know. The natural connection is the beat. Throughout my travels, I've always seen people cipher, whether they freestyling or spitting or written. There's always that, which connects to our indigenous way of being in a circle, ciphering up, getting energy and giving energy to other people. Um, Even in prison, you know, I was just at a concert last week, and some of our people, you know, can't come out. I work with adults as well, not just young people. And I was at Carnegie Hall, which is a really prestigious venue that fortunately this brother was able to get their material as a writer, composer, and create pretty much an ensemble chamber piece for about, you know, a cellist, two violins, bassoon player, piano, uh, little to no words. There was some vocals, but mostly harmonies. And that has been toured nationally, you know, with this organization. So I wish our opportunities could be like that for our young people, where their works of art that's within the walls can also be appreciated outside. But we do have moments where I DJ, so I'll play the music, or I'll go out there and I'll play some music of our young people here, and people connect to it. You know, that's the extension of connection, if that makes sense.
I see some people nodding, so I think it does. A part of that question was also how to use it as a revolutionary tool.
Ah,
And
yes, thank you.
we
Yes.
talked a bit yesterday and today about critical revolutionary hip hop pedagogy, which is your creation based on plus 20 years of experience. Can you share a little bit more about that, the critical and revolutionary component?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, and I appreciate y'all for even organizing, and can't see what's of a piece, what's a into the family. But and all the people that, all right, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, there you go. All right. And all the people that I can't really see faces, but you know, y'all there. I think I can. All right, there's people in the back somewhere. But yeah, hopefully at some point I get to know the names of people that I have seen and will continue to see. Y'all been doing this, right? So like what we do, um uh you know, for example, doing prison work here, a lot of times they don't want us to call ourselves revolutionary. They don't want us to make things so that people could think, right? And we get it. You know, we're living in a white supremacist time, which is almost over pretty soon. It's crumbling. It is crumbling, that empire. But until then, we chip away at the walls, right? And one way to chip away is to practice or praxis liberation through our creation. So we don't censor the young people when they do things, and that could be problematic for some workers because they don't understand the direction. They're like, why are you going to let them say harmful things um, that could offend somebody in the space, or it's offensive to me or whatever? And we're like, well, imagine a young person who doesn't have a place to express themselves. Um, Hip hop has always been a tool of expression for people who don't have many ways to express. So that's ironic, and it would be hypocritical of us to not allow somebody because of the vulgarity or the tone, or if they want to do drill music. We try to embrace that and have conversations around what they're talking about. So if we don't speak the language of the people, and I was trained by Black Panthers. Some of y'all know me, and still trained by Black Panthers to this day, and people in the Young Lords Party. Um, it's all about the people. So you can't move without the people, right? If you're organizing something and it's not including a young person's voice, but you think you're making the right decision for them, you're doing it wrong. So they have to have some agency, right? And believe it or not, it doesn't sound that revolutionary, but having agency and ownership, especially if you're working in prison, community centers, or places where people have a need, is sometimes the most revolutionary thing that you can provide as a practitioner, as a youth worker. Um, and then you move from there, right? So there's steps to self-determination. So from that part, gaining the trust, the confidence that you got their back, that they can freely express without feeling judged, that they can make a mistake and talk about it, you know what I'm saying, and not be criticized. That's really important. It opens up the chakra, right? It opens up the space for a conversation. You can't come in talking about uh, being I forget how y'all use it out there, a civic, uh, what's that word when you try to be a good person in society? Yeah,
Agent, civic agent or something?
yeah, some kind of civic. Y'all have this like real technical grammar that
Okay.
y'all use for citizens who are doing the right thing. We have it too. We don't use it so much, but it's not something that comes off of our thing. But before, you can't come in talking about how you're going to clean up your community, and you should care about your brothers and sisters, and let's talk about Palestine and da da da. Like if they're not connected to these issues or connected to you, that those other issues won't open up. And we've been surprised where one person will do 3 songs, where it's just like gun, gun, bah, bah, bah. You're like, damn, man, I can't stomach hearing another one. And we're like, could you give me something else, right? Could you stretch your imagination? Could you talk about maybe something that's happening in your community that you don't want to see, or something that you want to offer, or whatever? And then you see them change the content over time. But their first song, if they're already about that life and doing certain things, they're not going to go there. So I think as youth workers and as youth, that is a revolutionary transaction, right? Of having the patience, listening, and vice versa, and seeing if we could be gentle with each other while we grow, right? Because we're growing every day. To act like you know the answers, or to act like you're there to school somebody is counter revolutionary, because then you're feeling like you're above the person or the people. And hip hop to me is made, even though it's very boisterous and cocky and confident and machismo and all that, it's really culturally made to humble oneself. That's why we have the ciphers and we're all looking at each other. That's a praxis of indigeneity, like I mentioned, of a traditional way of building with each other, of getting energy from each other. That's revolutionary. When we don't You can teach things through the practice of the culture, is what I'm saying. So whatever it may be, B-boy, B-girl, MCing, DJing, how do you collaborate? Are you building community? You'll find a lot of young people like to write solo rhymes. We encourage them to collaborate. That's very revolutionary and communal, and working with each other. But there's a lot more other things, but I'm sure we'll get into it. I hope I kind of answered some of that part that I missed.
I think so. We have a couple more guiding questions, but I actually want to open it, as we love, and I know Spiritual does too, to vibe on your vibes. Is there anybody who already has a question? You can think about it.
That's good. You
Well,
did a lot of work. That's, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I have to do jumping jack now. We talked a lot about hip hop legacy as well, and honoring hip hop history and her story. Going back to the Bronx, but also all the way back to Africa. And sometimes it's not always easy to motivate young people to be open to that. So we want to ask you as well, how important do you feel that is? And if you feel it's important, how do you stimulate, inspire youth to carry that legacy on?
That's a good question, and that's a hard one. It's and I'll be real transparent, and maybe things have changed over the years. I was really shocked in doing a lot of work in Germany, Iceland, and mostly just Europe, right? How 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 impatient, at least definitely a decade ago, how impatient a lot of the uh older people, and I'm not talking like old, I'm talking like millennial old, um we're like kind of tripping on the fact that young people weren't doing boom bap. um they felt like they weren't keeping it real. They felt like trap, anything that was moving into more of that kind of where we are now with drill and all. They thought that was a pretty much a plague and a dis-ease, and many people didn't want to um, even build with young people if they were talking that talk, right? Um, that's not necessarily the case so much here. You got a lot of people too that are very purist in their form of classic hip hop, and that's cool. But still, there's a lot more, I guess, because we just are exposed to so many parts, and it's hard to just be isolated with like underground or conscious hip hop versus blah blah blah. Like everyone's in the same circles here a lot of times, and people usually collaborate for good, bad, or indifference. And the reality is a lot of us are friends, and not just like in the like we are our people. And we aspire to do better and do certain things, and some of our people don't want to do that, but we still got them as our people. They are people. We don't throw them away, right? So I would love our young people to get a grip and a grasp on the history, her story of hip hop. It is a dream of our pedagogy that there's a form of respect through ancestry, even beyond, right? Where does hip hop come from? Right? Finding the politic in that, right? Where does it come from? Where does it come out of? Thinking of Jamaica, thinking of um, Puerto Rican, Jamaican, Black, Africa, right? Thinking of like the rhythm of the drum, thinking of the rhythm of music, um, thinking of 4/4 timing, and how indigenous cultures in Africa, we do like different timing, right? As well. Um, these things are helpful, right? And when you find people who are nourished by their culture and infuse it, right? When you have artists like Shadia Mansour, Palestinian hip hop, Dam, Palestinian hip hop, when you hear the traditional rhythms, the folk that's sampled, and that's given within the rhythm, that's honoring and respecting where you come from beyond a boom bap, right? So to me, the hope is that they find a light that they could connect ancestrally and culturally beyond the 90s or early 2000s, whatever's old for them. But I do think it's important to get the reference points because that's how we grow and exercise our muscles. And I know, and vice versa, right? That's for the elders, people like me who's getting some grades and who's been doing it for a little bit. It's good exercise to listen and try to find out what you vibing on. Like I try to remix some of my energies and freestyle over the drill beats, just to play with it, not necessarily to be relevant, but to have a conversation. Um, is not my particular style, but I can vibe with it. As an artist, some of it is not bad music. A lot of it is, and that's just what it is. It's the music industry versus the culture, and you're always going to have a clash of integrity, a clash of personalities. As y'all probably all know, you can tell who's been paying attention and referencing between Kendrick and Drake, right? What legacy has been passed down. You can hear the way they make their music. You can hear how they honor what they're honoring. If they honor anything, that comes from a tradition of accountability and legacy that I hope the young people can learn beyond a musical genre. So I think there's a space for it. Again, it's like the revolutionary tool has to be very delicate. We can't walk up in there being like, yo, like, I don't understand why you're doing this hip hop. You're not from the South Bronx. You should throw in some traditional music from where, like, we shouldn't just be coming at like people like that. And we could challenge them and still ask them where they come from and what music your mother listened to, and do you think that would be a cool sample, maybe just to get her attention or whatever, right? The legacy work is about bridging and filling in that gap. You know, it's not legacy work if you're doing it by yourself and talking to just your group of people. So we have to be a little bit more imaginative.
I see some nods again. Yes. Um, any questions so far? Otherwise, let's just keep going. What do you think of the question? Because we do want to hear your questions. Yes. Woo.
I will freestyle my question.
You will freestyle. That's the spirit.
Okay, I'm wondering, as I understand, you work with you as well. Yes.
Yes.
With you,
Yes.
So this critical part, critical pedagogy, hip hop, I understand, but maybe you can elaborate how you do it, what works, what did you notice, and so on. So critical part.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, the critical part. Okay, so how we break it down, right? Critical revolutionary hip hop pedagogy, and over the years I've been moving into because it's a lot of words, and I'm pretty wordy. So over the years I've been moving more into a maroon pedagogy, and it means the same thing. And I'll talk about maroons maybe later if y'all interested, or y'all could do some research. Maroon, if we're talking about legacy work, right? So what that means is critical. We have to be uh, critical not only of our environment and music, but ourselves in order to grow, right? The critical part is a part that helps us think and not just follow. Um, uh, you know, I have a line in one of my rhymes of just being like, um, we help the youth basically choose what to drink, not tell them what to drink, right? So they can drink it and see what they want and how it digests and if it works for them, and processing that, right? So like I mentioned earlier about making mistakes, life is an experiment. Hip hop is definitely a sub experiment of life. So why not make mistakes, but be critical about it, right? Like, were you intentional on that mistake? Did you try something and it failed? Um, did you try to take a song and talk about something that's relevant that's happening today? It's a shame that, and some people in my immediate circle, we argue about this and debate. It's a shame that so much energy was wasted on two people that have such an audience, and not one word of Palestine was mentioned. Not one word of political prisoners was mentioned. Not one word of police brutality was mentioned when people are dying. Not one word, was mentioned on the struggles and the suffering and suffrage of our people. And they are supposed to reflect or represent our people. Now, that could be questionable for some people saying, oh, people are just artists. There's too much pressure. I think that's bullshit. I think everybody who's an artist, that's your gift and that's your curse. The same way we can call somebody out for making art that's kind of weak and we don't vibe with it and we don't dance or gel with it, it's the same way we could challenge the people that we listen to or that we rhyme with and say, yo, how come you're not thinking about today's society? Why aren't you, what are you not thinking? Like you just go to the studio and just choose not to think? That's what happens. So the critical part is a development of thought that hopefully could help you learn to overcome challenges and obstacles, and think of solutions, right? Again, experiment and figure out what could work. That's what music is. You're creating an imagination or an environment where you can imagine that's safe or liberated from limitations. So that means you have all the solutions in 16 bars if you wanted to think about that. You may have to work for those solutions, but if you don't even think and talk about it, that critical part is what I feel is missing. A lot of times we have hip hop pedagogy, you hear it, hip hop pedagogy, but there needs to be something more. Like I'm sure y'all familiar with critical race theory, which also has been challenged and has been going around mostly throughout the United States. I'm pretty sure it hit Europe as far as the schools in some way, but the critical is important because you can't just teach our young people science and sociology and not give the context of how they interact with the world and how maybe their science is interfered by a bullet by a racist cop. Like that's a real thing that happens. You should be talking about it. Now, how you talk about it, that's a delicate nature. That's up to the way you do your methodology. But to not speak about it is a disservice. So critical is important, and revolutionary is something that we hope people grow to become or want to be, right? It's that legacy work that we're talking about. And I'm not talking about like the image that people think of, and I say this a lot of Che, you know, walking around with an AK and trying to liberate parts of autonomous zones, except I'm talking about revolutionary and being communal first, right? Being attentive, listening to each other, growing, having gardens, having projects, having collaborations, stopping the police, you know, doing protests, whatever it is, but like growing gradually in a direction that's not repeating this supremacist oppressive state. I hope I answered that in a way that makes sense for you and all other people.
Yes, and some like nonsense going on as well. I want to bring it back to something you mentioned and something that we talked about earlier today as well. And I do want to give a shout out to our brother Rafael over here who showed this beautiful music video where actually, Rafael, if I could pass you the mic and just share what we talked about earlier about going back before colonization, because that definitely ties into maroonage, what Spiritchild would love to talk about as well. I mentioned before, we also do political education online, and that's with the Maroon Party for Liberation. But a beautiful link to what we created before and shared.
Hi, Spirit. Nice to meet you.
Peace, peace. Good to meet you.
So I did a song called EPG, which stands for Exploitation, Power, Greed. And I do a lot of work, I guess, with around anti-racism in Ireland. But it made me think about how racism impacts my everyday. And it made me reflect on where I came from. I'm from West Africa, Togo, and it made me think about what West Africa was prior to colonization and how powerful we were and the kingdoms and empires we came from. I come from a very, I guess, royal family when you trace back my family tree. But I felt like because of our current society, a lot of that power has been almost feels like it's been stripped away from me. But when I started reading on my history and pre-colonization, I felt empowered. And I wanted to, I guess, depict that in the music video and in the lyrics I was talking about, referencing Mansa Musa, referencing various different leaders back in the day, referencing empires, referencing what colonization has taken away from us and how we should kind of claim it back by the way we move, by the way we talk, and just remember who we really are. We're more than post-colonization. So, yeah.
That's dope. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's really dope. So first I'll say peace, King. That's the first thing I'll say. And secondly, that's a powerful, powerful title. I love it. And you're right on. And thirdly, because I feel you're so advanced with your analysis and your critical thought that you have, I will challenge you. I'll offer you a challenge and say, in your albums and your videos, are you developing a toolkit where all these resources and the things that you've been reading can be passed along to somebody in a line of notes, on a CD, on a website, or someplace where people can get the information that you got to get where you were to write that music? And that's something that I think we could step up as artists. We can start doing that. If you do have that, send me some links. But yeah, if you want to respond, you can respond. But it's definitely a direct challenge to you, or a question or a quest if you choose.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I just finished a degree in occupational therapy, and there's a lot that I'm trying to combine. And the work I've been doing is quite new. It's a lot of reflective practice and reflexive practice. I haven't started, but challenges that.
Right on. Yes, I love it. All right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We grow each other.
Can you maybe share the link to that to Maroonage Spirit? Because I think
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely how you mentioned, brother. The last album I did was oof, it, it, I don't even know the title of it, but it was an album by Maroonage. I remember the title, but it was an album specifically exactly what you're talking about. It was like basically a hip hop dissertation of legacy and who we were prior to colonization, like you mentioned, and also through the years, right? Documenting our struggles in the 60s as well. That was really strong, pivotal point for us, critical point. And now, going from Harriet, even prior to like George Floyd, right? Like, and figuring out what a Maroon is and who Maroons are. So Maroons, for those who don't know, are people who have never been enslaved or who have been captured during the time of slavery and chose to resist and run away and not remain slaves. So you'll find Maroons, Jamaica, Suriname, Venezuela, Mexico, pretty much everywhere where there was slavery and colonization. You'll find Haiti. You'll find people who have resisted, and they were Maroons. Some of them identify differently, but they come from that line and legacy of Maroonage, of wanting to flee and leave the plantation. But also, it's important to talk about that Maroonage was also people who lived in autonomous communities that were also potentially, some of them, not enslaved, right? We always talk about slavery, and I like to usually talk about how we were before slavery, right? Like we didn't start as slaves. So we're on the same track with that. And Maroonage is something that gives people an example of that transaction and that transition from being autonomous and living communally as a Maroon and then being enslaved, but still wanting to maintain that same liberation that you have before the colonizers came. So not conforming, not being a capitalist, not being a reformist, not, I mean, obviously there's contradictions in 2024. We are living in particular structures that are connected to potential oppressive structures, whether it's a light company or the whatever, somebody's oppressing somebody, right? And we still have to live. And the way we can try to live as respectfully as possible, as close as we wanted to with integrity, is to study Maroons. So for us, we've learned that there are also white Maroons, which we also have a white Maroon group where people meet as a school, and they train and they learn about these things, right? And it's important, like we're all gathering information. So I believe the way we organize is that we're all artists, and we're all revolutionaries, just a matter of how you find your light in your art. And to have informed art is probably the best and most beautiful gift that we can have. So the awareness that we bring having sessions like this is what we do in our school. We have videos, we process them, we talk about a history, her story, we talk about the interruptions, interventions, etc. And then we figure out solutions and how to like translate that and teach other people that information. So yeah, Maroons, we still exist, we're still around, and we still fighting. It's different types of fights that we're fighting. Some of us are going into prison and doing music and trying to figure out how to heal through music, how to give at least some sense of humanity and connection, if we can't break the walls. But originally, and our ultimate goal is to abolish the systems that oppress us. So we're not conforming and saying we want to keep working in these prisons. We hope they all burn down with the people out, of course, but we want to burn these institutions down and rise up with liberation.
that deserves an applause in case you didn't hear.
Oh, okay, cool, right on. I can't, but thank you. I can see. I thank you. I appreciate you.
Any other questions?
Hi, hello, I'm David. Hi, Spirit.
Peace, peace.
I've got one little question. Uh, According to hip hop culture, which element is the closest for you? Maybe you grew up on doing gravity or rap or dance. Which were the most important for you and for your next generation of being spiritual?
Next generation. I like that. Thank you. Thank you for the question. MCing has been MCing is has been always dear, near, and will always remain the core of my energy. I love playing with words. Ever since I got a hold of a pen and paper, and learned that I could do something and make it say something. I was like, oh, this looks cool. So I just kept doing that. And I'm a lover of words. I've been MCing since I was about 7, 8 years old. Um, and I still MC. And I also DJ now. I've been DJing for probably the past decade or a little bit more. And that became more of a necessity because I love sound. I love to collect music. My father just used to send my mother love song mixtape things, and I got put on to like Isaac Hayes and Earth, Wind and Fire and The Last Poets and Amiri Baraka, and I was like, this is some sexy, funky music. And long and behold, I was listening to my cousin who was a DJ, and he was playing a lot of music that sampled that. And I was like, how's that pop? What is this? Like, so I was like really vibing with hip hop from early on. I would try to mimic all the MCs. I never really I did a little spraying a few times, you know what I'm saying? I never really got into it because my first experiences was getting expelled from school for tagging up the desk like an idiot, not thinking that people would know where I was sitting. I had no idea that you were supposed to do it a different way. So I stopped that quick. And the dancing, I try to get down, but I'm more of a salsa kind of vibe. If that and knowledge, which to me is a pedagogy. So there's three elements that I represent hardcore right now. That's the knowledge, the MCing, and the DJing, not necessarily in that order. Thanks for that question. All right on.
Other questions? Aha, the questions are coming. Olga, please.
Hey, Chan. My name is Olga. I'm from Ukraine. And I wanted to ask you about hip hop theater as a both as a tool for therapy, and at the same time, it's a platform to raise important questions, regardless of just personal, but also more like on the community level. So, how do you see this correlation of? I think you can be vulnerable, but in a way that doesn't let you get hurt. Like you mentioned that, of course, we can convey a lot of messages through word, but let's say if we take hip hop dance as a dance form, we can convey lots of messages without words.
Mm-hmm.
So, your perspective on hip hop theater, because I think hip hop is just so empowering and it has so many tools within. But theater as another art form combined with hip hop gives hip hop even more, ways to proclaim its deep messages.
Yeah. Thank you, Olga. I agree. I definitely agree. When hip hop theater, at least from my knowledge, started coming out, a few of our people, and we still do it and partake. There's a few theater companies that host a lot of hip hop theater events, and we're like the pioneers of that. Um, a lot of my people I found were like very, very dramatic or very charismatic freestylers that started exploring the art of doing more. And I was like, oh, okay. I started seeing it and I was like, all right, that's really dope. That's dope. So I would get involved, and I think it's really important to have that. I don't know, Olga, if you're familiar with Augusto Boal. So Augusto Boal and this,
Just to, sorry, Spirit, to interrupt you, just to put it in the reference, you talked about Paulo Freire yesterday, and then Augusto Boal actually translated that into theater as well. Yes.
yeah, so some of the people that I know, thank you for that, Dodi. Some of the people that I know, and that's what I would love to leave y'all with is at least some books or some references that could maybe help guide a bit more along the way in the revolutionary tool form. But we don't have to reinvent these things, right? So Augusto Boal did just that, situational theater. We use a lot of those icebreakers in our workshops, where people are just kind of communing or gathering around and expressing themselves through a situation and picking up that action or act. And then other people are just freestyling and asserting themselves, or just the movement part and figuring out how to, make little angles or energies or whatever. That we always use that in our workshop space, regardless if people are looking to DJ or MC or whatever. The icebreakers are always, it becomes theatrical. But I mentioned Augusto Boal because we're talking about legacy work, and I don't know if necessarily all of hip hop theater is intended, just like all of hip hop is intended to have a political outcome or objective, or in a way that is choosing to heighten that critical part that we were talking about earlier, right? And that revolutionary part and growing that. And I think we don't have to be accidental. If we use Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, along with Augusto Boal, Theater of the Oppressed, and we construct a workshop, we're guaranteed to hit something. But if we don't know it, we ain't hitting nothing, right? So it's about like using what you know or what we can learn to get that objective. I'm assuming that everyone here is taking the task to not only performing and producing, but creating pedagogy that is more revolutionary or pushing that critical part. That's the assumption that I have with all y'all.
I see some nods again. Thank you so much. Another brother from Ireland, Alex, has another question for you.
Ireland's in the building.
Ireland's in the building.
Yeah. All right.
Hey man, nice to meet you. So my question is, would you have any mentors, and who would be your biggest inspirations to help you do what you do?
Thank you for that. Yes, I wouldn't be anywhere without my mentors and womentors as well. I would say Fred Ho is one of my main mentors, a baritone sax player. He's no longer living. Unfortunately, he died 10 years ago. Taught me a lot, and really inspired me to continue to flow and rap and create music in odd meter timing. I was doing it a little before I met him, but he pushed me to keep doing it, and that definitely expands. If you're freestyle, if you're an MC, or even b-boy, b-girl, try breaking or rapping over some 13 or 6/8, which is not that bad or far from 4/4, but try breaking the 4/4 box, right? These screens before everything is we boxed in. So Fred Ho, Asante Austin, which is a Black Panther, Baba Shep, Black Panther. As far as my music, my cousin inspired me because he was a DJ, but he didn't really pursue it to the next level. But he gave me all of my taste and flavor. The people that I work with inspire me often. Phase One here, MC, my brother Majesty, who also passed away. These are peers that I also consider mentors. Hassan Salam. So some of these people, and I guess more commercially, what I look forward to uh, that gives me some breath of an air. I love Andre 3000. I'm an Outcast head, and I'm really big on Andre 3000. Obviously, you got to mix some Tupac in there. I still spin it. I play it all the time. Um, I've more current things. Kendrick, J. Cole. I like Doja Cat. I like a bunch. I like a lot of different. I like different. If it's different, I like it. Tyler the Creator, vibe with him. So like I got a span of things, and then I got my friends. I love Shadia Mansour, Dam. I mentioned them. They inspire me with their resilience and revolutionary vigor. Public Enemy is definitely on my top. So these are people that I still look to and listen to for inspiration. Some of them are no longer doing music, and some of them are just, not on the commercial scene, and some are overly saturating the commercial scene. So I have a range. Thanks for the question.
The questions. Otherwise, I'll just, yes, of course.
Oh, I can't forget Nina Simone. Oh my God. Nina Simone.
Yes, Nina, all day, all night long.
So I just want to ask, how did you get into your line of work and what made you want to work with young people?
How do I get into? Thank you. How did I do this? How did I do this? Like most things, it chooses you, right? So honestly, I know ever since I was young, second, third grade, uh, just hearing, seeing ciphers. We used to watch Video Music Box, which you could probably find as a streaming thing. Really dope. And they would play so many different, when I was growing up, um, my year is 78, by the way. So when I was coming up as a child, we had everything. We had Slick Rick, we had NWA, we had Public Enemy. Um, we had all that was contradictory, playful, fantasaic, serious, LL Cool J, love. We had all the things that was an expression of what we felt. We could find it in hip hop. Somewhere along the line, like like um like church, somebody decided to make it more complicated and said, well, if you worship here, you're gonna have to wear this kind of hat. And if you want to praise the Lord over there, you're gonna have to put this dress on. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, so somewhere people made it complicated. It's the most simple thing is just to do you and be who you are, right? And I've been doing that since I was young, not thinking of any categories. Conscious, unconscious, blah, 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 whatever the hell that means. And it wasn't until I think I stumbled in high school that I was looking to do something more with the music. I didn't know what it would be. I had a cool mentor, high school teacher, who put me on to Malcolm X, and I felt I was late to the game. If you study the Black Panthers, they were revolutionizing from 13, 14. I started more like 15, 16, and I felt like I had a lot to catch up on. So once I got hooked onto Malcolm X, I was like, how could I translate that to a rhyme? And then working with young people, that just became a consequence of growing up and being around so many young people. I grew up in the South Bronx. So like as soon as you hit a certain age, and some of y'all probably could relate to this, you have younger brothers and sisters that are not even yours. They're just following you around. And you got to figure out what to do with them because you're probably taking care of them or they just won't go away. And you can't really go someplace else. So you're just kind of there. So you figure out things to do. And professionally, I think I got my first job working with young people, teaching them music. And I remember doing exercises like moo or bzz over like hip hop beats. And I would have them like, I was trying to teach music theory 101, but I would always have like a freestyle aesthetic to it. And I was like, I like this. I want to figure out how to keep doing it. I didn't study it. I didn't know that it didn't exist like it does now, where there's institutions that will help you with it. And ever since I've been growing in hip hop as an MC, I've been almost simultaneously growing as a pedagogue and teaching and working with younger people. And I love it. I love the energy. Sometimes I give a cap on how young I want to work with, because I get excited working with people that are in that critical stage of thought. And then I realize, man, sometimes those 8-year-olds, they are so they blow your mind. And I got to remember, like, it's not just babysitting. I could work with the young kids again. But my capacity sometimes goes away. I'm like, just could we focus, but yeah, that's how I started. I hope that answers the question.
Some people can relate to what you were just saying on the focus part. And it keeps us young, because I saw some surprising looks when you mentioned your year. just so you know, give you compliments over there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, 46 yesterday. 46 yesterday. That's
yes. Another birthday. So shall we do the same thing as yesterday? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Answer. Thank you. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Geminis, we love it.
We had another birthday yesterday as well, so it's the birthday season.
Yes.
Of people joining. Thank you so much. Any other questions? I'll add one in the meantime that we've been talking about today as well, and you mentioned it earlier. The tension between mainstream capitalism, hip hop, grassroots hip hop, underground hip hop. How do you feel, or how do you deal with that? What's your view on that? And also, I think one of the topics we were also talking about, and you mentioned it as well, right? How do you fund? I think it's the relation with capitalism has multiple layers. How do we deal with it musically, but also organizationally? What do we accept? How do we work with governments, companies? What's your view on that tension between those two worlds, so to speak?
Yeah, I like that question. Thank you. It's a good question. It's great. It's a good, why? Because for me, it changes in a way. It changes a little bit, not too much, but it changes. Like I mentioned earlier, for some reason, I'm in this season of, as an organizer, I see us suffer so much from internal fighting. I'm guilty with that. Bochinche, or talking shit, about other whatever. I'm guilty for that. So many flaws that we have as humans. And it's inevitable, but I hate to see that flaw that we have, that inhumanity of not being able to get along, permeate our culture. It's inevitable, but I don't like it. I don't like that people feel they have to compare or choose. I'm a Gemini, as I mentioned, and I like the options of what else, I don't like or, I like ands. And I think we limit ourselves when we make this dichotomy, like it's a little ironic, because I want people to grow as a revolutionary. And obviously the answer is I'm for that more. And also I'm for balance. I'm for pleasure. I'm for pain when it's consensual. I'm for everything that people may find not cool, when the moments are cool for that thing, right? So if you want to let go and let loose because you've been engulfed with so much politics in your life, and you want to listen to Bad Bunny and Drake all day, I can't hate you for that. Like I don't want to hate you for that. Like I want to celebrate you and be like, yo, that's cool. Sounds like you got some pain you're masking or you don't want to ask or talk about. Can we find a way to talk about it or a platform that we both can rock with? And there are some music that is not necessarily underground and necessarily pop, that we could find some in between. So I don't like the division. Like I mentioned earlier about these churches. There's too many hip hop churches. You know, you got your 5%ers, you got your righteous, you got your drills, you got your trap, you got your classic boom. You got all these churches. And the smart people that I've seen over the years, I don't want to say smart people, that sounds too judgmental. The more experimental people, freer people have collaborated with artists that are not necessarily in their backyard or in their reach or in their category, right? And that's where the beautiful magic happens as well. I like to leave some room for hope of that magic. Clearly, there's a saturation, oversaturation of commercial hip hop that is destructive and is doing an injustice to our communities. And I like people to choose what they'd like to serve or feel serves them. And it be different for different people. Some people, could you imagine? I mean, when I'm working out, I like to listen to DMX. That might offend some people. I can't really work out listening to Doja Cat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not gonna really, I need something a little bit more, so, so the thing is, there's a season and a reason for everything. And what we're missing, what the commercial and capitalist mainstream misses, as I mentioned earlier, early 80s, late 70s, you had a buffet. And it was up to you as the consumer to choose. And right now, what we have is the commercial industry is choosing what they think and want us to digest, as opposed to artists naturally doing what they love or feel called to. That's where the destruction happens. I'm like, you're not even pushing weight. You're not selling drugs. You're not holding anything, and you're making it like it's a. But if you were pushing and selling whatever, and you want to talk about that experience, I'm not one to tell you you can't do that. And clearly, there's a commercial industry for that. So I'm about balance. I'm guilty for DJing and having a good time and spinning some of the music that people just vibe with commercially. And I'm also guilty for giving a lot of music that people don't even know. A lot of music that is connected to legacy, or I'll mix some political speeches in between and do things that are more relevant to the times. But I pick and choose when that thing is appropriate. I don't think we should be monolithic. We should be a little bit more holistic in our creation, but also consumption, if it works for you.
Thank you. Any questions, my dears? Coming up. Yes, I feel you do.
Hi, Spirit. My name
Hey.
is Keith. I'm from Ireland.
Hey.
I just want to ask you a question. So in Ireland, the hip hop scene is it's developing. It kind of struggles a little bit, but it's definitely developing. And I think hip hop is right at home in Ireland. We have like a history of oppression there when we were colonized by the British Empire. And when you were talking about Maroons, I related to that as well because there was times in Ireland when if you spoke Irish, you'd basically be killed and you couldn't speak it. And we were forced into speaking the colonizer's language. But what I wanted to ask you is, what would you recommend how we could develop the scene and basically looking for advice that I could bring back home to develop the scene in Ireland and for somewhere that kind of struggles with their identity, I suppose. Because in the UK you have like the grime culture and drum and bass culture that led into adding to the scene, and in America you had the sample culture taking soul records and stuff. So I just wanted your opinion on, I don't know, something we could do in Ireland or what we should be leaning into.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that question. That's a good question and good context too. There's an artist we used to rock with a lot. I don't know if you know her. Her name is Miscellaneous Temperamental or Temperamental Miscellaneous. She's in Dublin. We do a lot of work with her. And we've hosted her here. And she's also organized with us too. And what I would see her do, right? And I'm gonna fuck it up, but what I don't know the name of the drum, the traditional drum that you have that she was playing. Yeah. So she would play that and do poetry. She would play that and rap over it. She brought it here and we did shows and even like EO Dub, end of the week, which is like a big, y'all have EO Dub there too. I think you have the challenges as well. And y'all have a chapter, I think, in Belgium, I'm pretty sure. But and probably even in Ireland, I'm not sure. But that culture of having those rap battles, she would bring that into the space, and people be like, "Oh shit, what's that?" And then she'll talk about it, right? So she gave a prop as an excuse to talk about her legacy and her culture because you can't avoid it. And one thing that I would say is like, like we talk about the Black Panthers all the time. IRA, I don't know. Like it depends how people feel. If they feel connected to that type of resistance, why not give them a reference or a resource that the IRA existed and some of them still exist and people, maybe not in the way that they used to, but there's a lot of cross also pollination too. Frederick Douglass went out to Ireland. We had so many people come from Ireland to New York and help struggle. So, like, even having and creating a space where you cross pollinate and share and show that history. There's a really good movie that's old. It's called The Black and the Green. That's connecting and talking about Black liberation and the IRA and Irish liberation, right? There's also it's also a book as well, Black and the Green. I recommend the book and the short documentary. And if you can't find it, get in touch with Doreen and make sure you get those resources. But like finding a place where you can have a screening or just having it projected and having an open mic, that's the scene. Having a movie night and then freestyling. Oh, you freestyle? Okay, cool. We're gonna play this film, and based off of this film, we're gonna freestyle for 30 minutes, right? Like challenge people, see what fun things people could do, but also incorporate other cultures so that people are connected. Like my brother who was talking earlier, who maybe is not accustomed or knowing so much, right, of the traditional Irish, but they're there and they're Irish, I presume, or maybe I'm not sure the status, but they are Black Irish people. You know what I'm saying? So like connecting that with Africa and talking about those challenges or disparities and being open, like the struggle's not over. You talked a lot about uh, the rule of the British Empire, and there's still empires that's ruling over people. So like that same connection that you have and had can be introduced to a newer generation and create a scene of solidarity or even, dare we say, resistance, which is what we pray for. But that's what I would say. Right on, right on. I love the multi nations. You got my brains going because I'm like, yes, I remember. Yes, good. It's really cool.
Yes, Spiritchild knows all the countries in the room. We let him know Georgia, the Belgium, the Ireland, the Netherlands,
Yes.
and so on, all in the building over here. So beautiful crowd to join. Any other questions, my dears? And I'll just, our sister who's taking a call right now had a question for you. I feel you already kind of answered it, but I do want to honor her question. So it might be a summary of a couple of things you just said. But the question she was formulating was, what is your antidote to the gentrification of hip hop?
Run. No, joking. Never run. Never run. Don't run. Um, uh, That's a tough one. That's a good one. And I probably said some things, but what comes to mind is I think everyone could benefit from reading or rereading The Art of War, and figure out how to be a bit more strategic in our pedagogy or delivery. If you go to a lot of battle raps, you'll see cats do certain things that is like, whoa, keeps your attention, right? Whether it be props or things people pull out of bags or whatever it is to stand out and to be different. It's inevitable that capitalism is here. We're trying to destroy it. Chances are we're probably going to have a conversation even before getting there. How do we coexist with capitalism? And that's the same kind of question we have. How do you coexist with colonizers and gentrifiers in hip hop? Now, you could focus your energy on trying to get rid of them. You could try. It's very saturated, and it'll probably be a beyond lifetime journey, as I'm feeling right now. I don't think they're not going anywhere. They're multiplying like gremlins. You can't get rid of them. But what we could do is redirect and research the other safe havens or places that that are more communal or speak to the soul of why we got involved with hip hop, and we can preserve that. We could try to pass that on to people who want to listen. We can never force anything. Our main thing is we talk about, we never try to convince people. You try to find the right people that work with you, and that can change every year. That could be seasonal. It can come back around. Try hard to not make more enemies, especially making up enemies that don't exist. There's a thing, how it's not real. For some people, they really feel it is. It's a little bit conspiracy theorist, but I think y'all could read it. The Willie Lynch Papers, if you've ever read that before. It talks about the division of slavery and how they put one slave against the other, the light skin against the dark skin. But meanwhile, they're both slaves, right? And what we have to start thinking about is not good hip hop, bad hip hop, commercial, blah, blah. We could put pressure on these artists and say, can you utilize your commercial success to support this BDS campaign and boycott Israel? Yes, some people have done it. Commercial. That's what we want. Harry Belafonte's, Ozzie Davis, these people were, Denzel Washington's. These are celebrities, right? Or were celebrities. And Bruce Willis, right? These are people who are like, what? These are doing these crazy movies and junk food, blah, blah. But you find out, do some research and see what they've done with their money. You never know what people are doing with their money. Find out what they're doing with their money. And you'll be surprised. And you need those allies. And try, again, not to make false enemies, because we have enemies. Particular governments are our enemy. Just because someone's a product or a little confused of the state doesn't mean that they're your enemy. They're probably your closest brother or sister or sibling in the struggle than you think. And they're probably just going through something that they have to process or deal with. And it's probably a phase as well. So be patient. The antidote is patience. And wherever you feel is saturated with the gentrification, try to find an autonomous space that you can counter that saturation with soul and critical thought and revolution. Yeah. It's not a bad crowd. I'm glad you're not throwing tomatoes at me, I wouldn't feel it, but I can still see it.
There's also some people stretching in the back because we've been sitting for a long time.
Hey, I know. I appreciate your attention. I know it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to ask again if there are any questions. We do have a closing question, but if there are any other questions, and do utilize this moment, because When is the other time gonna come again that you can speak to a critical revolutionary hip hop educator, revolutionary artist, and then some from New York? So
Hey.
thank you, Domenico.
Hi there, I'm Domenico from Italy. I'm Domenico, Nico from Italy. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Wanted to ask you if you can give us like some example of good practice in working with youth, like I don't know, some example of a workshop like for beginners, something like that.
You want me to give an example of a workshop or how I work with how we work with young people? Is that was a question?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. An example. Yeah. Okay, cool. I like that. Practical methodology. Get what you need. And I'm gonna also, I started writing, but I'll finish before we leave. I'll put my information in the chat. And Doreen has it as well. You can get it from her, or you can just come to the screen and collect it. And if there's any questions that people had, didn't feel comfortable, because that is also something that we respect and acknowledge, that some people don't feel comfortable talking in open spaces. So I appreciate y'all for being uncomfortable and being here. But and how we work with youth, always, I don't care if we're on a screen, always start off with music. Play some music to attune and to get that tone and tune in. Like 10 minutes, depending on how long your workshop is, 5 minutes, some sound, right? If possible, try to put things up that represent who you are in the space. Bring it if the school or place doesn't have it. Take a half hour to aesthetically secure your soul so you could feel good and everybody could feel good and it looks good, right? So worry about that. Those two things. Tune in is really important. Also, letting them know what the agenda is and asking before you start, is there anything that you'd like to get out of the time that we're spending together? This goes back to what I talked about when we talked about agency and ownership. People have to feel like you want or they want to be heard by you or you want to hear them. Otherwise they tune out and they're waiting for you to perform. And sometimes they're like, whatever, waiting their turn to just get in the booth or whatever the case is. They're not feeling engaged. So if you ask people, right, and then you move to your agenda, always, depending on how long, we have a mini lesson. And that mini lesson, we're teaching something, whether it be the Her Story of Hip Hop, which I heard y'all saw, From Mambo to Hip Hop. That's a cool doc. Whether it be The Art of Freestyling, whether it be a documentary that you like or love, show a clip of it, not the whole thing. Show a clip of it and then talk about it. Have a discussion and then figure out maybe that could be your guiding question for them to write. Now we're getting into the writing part, the doing something, right? So you bring in the awareness. We have 3 A's that we talk about. The awareness part is who's around, what do we know, what do we want to know? The articulation is them talking and you talking, saying, okay, what do we want to get into? How do we want to do it? What's missing? And then the action is doing it in the workshop, whether it's writing a song, collaborating with somebody, whether it be just, a nice icebreaker if they never written before, 8 bars, who you are, where you come from. If you never, if you got a chance to speak to somebody on the other side of the world, what would you say to them? Prompts are really important. You got to have a lot of prompts, a lot of things in your back pocket, because some people really are short of inspiration. And it's not because of them, it's because of our society. So you have to be prepared to know that they're not going to be able to do it. Movement at some point in the beginning, having a break, that's important. Moving around. One really important thing, depending if you're doing 1 session or 10 sessions, if you're doing more sessions, this is really important to do. We always do community agreements where we ask people, how do you feel comfortable in the space? What's going to allow you to feel comfortable? Some people will say, well, I'm an introvert. I need my alone space. I don't want to collaborate. I don't want no one touching me, blah, blah. You have to get that from the onset, right? From the beginning. That also makes people feel that you're holding the space. So the first workshop is usually about connection and tuning in and making sure that we're confident with each other, and then we can grow from there. But that's usually the elements that we bring in, music, writing, watching something. And this is Howard Gardner. We studied a lot of psychology and also, with revolution. But Howard Gardner has multiple intelligences, which Doreen can also share with you, that we use.
We talked about this. Yes, we talked about it.
Okay, cool. So if you think about that wheel and all those things, how can you fill that with what you're presenting? Music, the multiple intelligences, what does that look like for you? We try to pay attention to that. We don't succeed all the time, but we try to do that. I hope that is concrete enough for you.
Thank you for a summary of some of the things we talked about this morning as well. The three E's are awareness, articulation, and action. Because as you can understand, my dears, that I got my props and a lot of the knowledge from Spiritchild. As you mentioned before, it wouldn't be nowhere without our mentors, and I definitely owe a lot to this man. Just giving you flowers while you can hear it.
Thank you. Person. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you, your ultimate goal is if you're organizing and doing this, one of the things, since we're doing the flower thing, but just is real. My partner here is doing similar work to what Doreen's doing. So Urban Art Beats, an organization like Commusec and like many organizations there. One of the most proudest things you can do or have as far as legacy work is figuring and finding the people that will continue to do that. I trust that Doreen gave y'all the information y'all need, because we worked really hard over a decade working together. And they've chosen to do this work in this particular way that, they could write a book on it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's important for them to translate, and for you all too, to find not only community partners or colleagues, but people that will continue the legacy work with you, like the young people. That's another thing that we like to do for the person who asked the question, I think Berlin, about what are we doing workshops, try to identify who can be a co-facilitator with you, one of the young people. They love that, and it helps.
Absolutely. As much as we can give to the youth, the better. We're going to come to our closing question, because we do want to honor your time. And thank you so much again, Spiritchild. Are there any pressing questions left?
Do you have an Instagram?
We do have his Instagram for sure. We're going to share that. Vincent has a question.
Yeah.
Spirit, next time, you want to show up in person.
Yes, I know. I'll be there in about a month and a half or so.
I'm so happy that you made some time for us. Actually, you were mentioning facilitating and having good partners. For me, this is the dream team, having Dolina and Fatih as a trainer, and having you with us as well as a mentor. And yeah, so happy that you take some time for us. Yeah, a big applause for this guy, please. Spirit.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate. I was telling Doreen, what's about. We were. This is part of the dream too for us. Of like having in every country should have it. But we've been doing this for a while, hoping that people would do conferences like this, have the time to talk about the conversations, because what you all are doing, don't believe what anybody says, is not only soulful because it's dope and creative, but it's scientific. It works, and you can see the transformation in our young. So we need more of you doing this work in this particular way that's critical and revolutionary, and of course hip hop. And that could mean whatever that means to whoever. But I love that y'all carrying that legacy and doing it. And thank you, Witzer, for hosting and putting that energy work in. And I can't wait to meet the baby, which is probably not a baby anymore because it's been so many years, but it's all good.
There's two in the meantime.
Two? Oh, man. See what happens with time? See what happens? Good work.
My life is over. No, you should come over. It's been a while. We should hang out again.
Yeah, yeah.
That said, I do want to say if there's people having questions or want to get in touch with Spirit, I hope you heard he's going to be in Europe in a month. So there is collaboration possibilities, just putting it out in the ether. Thank you for sharing all of your digits, Spirit. I just wanted to check in with you because I do feel you ended on that beautiful note. Is there anything else you would like to share with us with this beautiful crowd of youth workers who are utilizing hip hop to connect to our youth? Any other main
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, in connecting with our young people, don't forget to connect with each other. You know, we are our greatest allies and resources. Don't forget, I know there was a question about and I'm sure y'all get into it, but like the network, like keep this network strong and have it grow. You know, I don't know if it's an annual thing or what's happening or how y'all getting together, but think about how y'all could come together and create campaigns or write collective grants or something where your power becomes stronger and, for lack of a better word, institutionalized, right? Like you are the institution. So build that continuous legacy with each other, like keep connecting. I think that's part of the greatest blessings of hip hop is that we can collaborate so easily. You know, it could be a song, it could be a grant, it could be whatever, but that keep that energy flowing and reciprocated to each other, you know?
There's a studio session tonight, so that's a clear invitation for part one. And definitely thank you so much for sharing your ideas and keeping this community alive.
Word, yo, send me that beat if y'all are doing a hip hop session, because you know, even though I wasn't there, I'm still virtual. So holla at me, yo. Drop the beats. Drop the beats.
Thank you so much. I would encourage everybody to check out Spiritchild's website to stay in touch. I've met many educators in the broad field, many hip hop educators, many artists. There are, to me, you are the most, as you know, the most revolutionary, all-encompassing artist and educator. Thank you so much for inspiring me all of those years continuously. Us, many of us who've known you, and all of us here who got the pleasure, honor, and blessing to get to know you. Thank you so much. Happy celebrations. Continue on strong. And thank you thousands of times.
Likewise, party people, liberation, love, and light to you all power to the people, free the land, and pa'lante siempre. Peace.
Pa'lante siempre. Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Feel free to log off, but we'll keep it open so we have your digits in the chat and we'll share it.
Okay, so I can close over here, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, peace. Thank y'all.
Love to the
All right, right on. Likewise.